motivation. I hold you close so we share some smoke celebration. Yeah, love is motivation. I still got hope cause I found out love is salvation. We'll roll one up and live life like hippies on vacation. Daydream with no boundaries and no separation. Live life like we own one. 2 joints in the morning. 3 more when the sun's gone. Better hold on when we float on. Live life like we own one. 2 joints in the morning. 3 more when the sun's gone. Better hold on when we float on. Baby, let's smoke and drink. Baby, let's smoke and sing. Baby, let's go outside. Baby, let's smoke and drink. Baby, let's smoke and sing. Baby, let's feel
I'm not letting relapsing MS disrupt my life. My treatment choice? Boom. That's Kesimpta.
It's proven to reduce relapses and slow disability progression. Plus, it's the only B-cell treatment I can take at home.
Or take with me. Boom. That's Kesimpta.
No pre-treatment with steroids or infusion days. It's an auto-injector pen that's just once a month.
Don't take if you've had an allergic or life-threatening reaction to Kesimpta or have hepatitis B. You'll be tested for Hep B before treatment, as it could return. Serious side effects, including infections and PML, a rare brain infection, can occur and may be fatal or cause severe disability. Tell your doctor about your medical history, including liver problems, plans for vaccines, and pregnancy. It's not known if it will harm your unborn baby. You'll be monitored for a decrease in certain antibodies and liver function, as it may cause liver damage. Most common side effects are upper respiratory infection, headache, and injection reactions, including swelling, itching, pain, skin redness, fever, headache, muscle pain, chills, and tiredness.
Ask your doctor about Kesimpta. Boom.
Hey Google, what's the fastest way to appear?
Feeling south, but you warm up in your North Face. It's all perspective, you the jockey of the horse race. Think you got it bad while some are living off of your waist. Waiting like a music lover looking for that chord change. Game of life, there's no fucking board game. We put in work and paid our dues before the tours bang. Back when we were barely eating, sleeping on the floor stain. Now we joining people all together like we ordained. Everybody's gotta make mistakes. Everybody's gotta feel heartache. Everybody's gotta love someone. Someone to realize it. Realize it. Realize it. Realize it. Psychedelic color tones that circulate my mind frame. Trouble comes my way, but I just phase it out like daydreams. Born in the 80s, but my heart lives in the 60s. In a meadow full of daisies, running naked with some gypsies, man. Have empty glasses overflow with expectations. I take opportunities and make them revelations. We all got the same 24, man. Life's inaudible. Call your own place or you'll get played up like some pocket rules. Everybody's gotta make mistakes. Everybody's gotta feel heartache. Everybody's gotta love someone. Someone to realize it. Realize it.
Leo's working hard, growing. Pampers is working hard, keeping him dry. Only Pampers Swabbers has a Keep Dry liner to keep him comfortably dry. Pampers, behind every baby.
This is fantastic. Y'all, you know how I feel about Drip Drop. They just dropped Real Sugar Plus, 3 times the electric.
Together. Some really interesting geology, plate tectonics, and more, which we'll cover in today's video. We've also had some big solar activity today. So a huge solar explosion. It registered as a 5.7 M-class flare, but look at the amount of plasma that blasted off the sun today with this explosion, this sunspot group right here rotating towards Earth center and direct. It will be lined up with us exactly during our critical energy convergence that we have identified for mid-May. What does that mean? Well, it's when you have multiple things coming together, and typically when that happens, as we've been tracking on the channel and other people do it, I'm not the only one, whatever, you track this stuff, you see that when you have multiple factors aligned, they often work together synergistically, and it's sort of the whole is greater than the sum. So you'll have a big, very active sunspot, which has blasted off X-class flares in the past. It blasted off about 5 different coronal mass ejections towards Venus when it was aligned with Venus back just on the other side of the sun, just off the limb, the far side, rotating into view. That was a few days ago. On the 15th of May, we will have Mercury exactly opposite the Earth on the other side of the sun. This is a superior conjunction of Mercury, and we often see, like there's a very clear trend with superior conjunctions of Mercury, the planet closest to the sun, with the fastest orbital velocity, that angular momentum around the sun, with a magnetic field, that we get big solar activity. So we will have the sunspot right in line with us, and in addition to that, we will have this large coronal hole, which is perfectly correlated with the biggest earthquakes that we've had for the past year. Every single month in that position, Earth center direct, and in that G effective zone. Check out that shock wave. If this had hit us, this would be a big solar storm. Very likely severe, almost certainly a severe geomagnetic storm. That's a G4 storm. The scale rating goes one beyond that to an extreme storm, and that certainly could have happened because that was a big explosion. Only registered as a 5.7 on the X-class rating, the X-ray flux rating, but the strength of a solar flare in terms of that designation is not one-to-one with the strength of the solar storm launched out. You see it's very high velocity. That shock wave is almost instantaneous. That would have been a big one. We could get a big one in just 3, 5, 7 days. That's really that time window from the 13th of May to 17th when this sunspot's really kind of tracking in this central zone, which we kind of call the Earth strike zone. Yeah, some people really hope that it hits because they want to see aurora, they want to see plasma ribbons in the atmosphere. I get it, it's cool. you don't want to be too big because it can actually knock out satellites. It can knock out telecommunication, GPS, and also, well, like power grids. So I'm not someone that's on board with give us the big one personally. So maybe we should knock out all these AI data centers. I don't know.
Yeah, but not
Regardless,
that was a good
big,
one.
big event today from the sun. We can also see it here with our coronagraph view. So what we're seeing is the sun with this white circle, but we put a disk over it. That allows us to block out the majority of the light, so we can see the dimmer light of the corona, and we see this huge plasma ejection going out. And guess what? There is Mercury. So I'm talking about this critical convergence in mid-May. Mercury's right there, swinging around the far side. Another factor into that, you have the huge sunspot. You have the coronal hole, which is linked with the high magnitude 7+ earthquakes that we've been having going all the way back to July of 2025. You also have a new moon just a day later. So that's also a pretty powerful energetic moment. You know, we have our lunar cycle. You always have new moons, full moons, quarter moons, but when the lunar cycle lines up with these lower frequency, like less frequent, right, celestial phenomenon, well, then you pay attention. So we have a lot to cover in today's video. We are going to go through it quickly. We're going to do a big, deep dive into the seismicity of California and the Western United States. That is the main drive of this video, but I wanted to give you this space weather and solar update because we've been seeing big earthquakes line up with these space weather events. And all that, for the most part, has been concentrated in the Western Pacific. So think Japan, think Malaysia, think Papua New Guinea, and think Fiji, Samoa, Indonesia, Philippines, all those beautiful, wonderful places, right? The volcanoes have been popping off like crazy there. You have big eruptions from the most.
Get over $2,500.
Powerful and active volcanoes in Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia just in the past few days. That's maybe a bigger plate movement coming, but there's been a deficiency of, you could say, reciprocal activity in the Eastern Pacific, which is, well, you guessed it, that is North America. So that does not mean that it will happen here. We're actually not guaranteed to get an earthquake at all. It's just very likely. The correlation is very strong, and there's some very good science explaining how it's not just correlation, but actually causation. It's hard to get something that's more causative than the sun, right? Like the phrase, correlation is not causation, is so stupid because actually, guess what? When it is a causation, yeah, correlation can be causation. So yes, some things, correlation is not a causation, but that phrase is used in such a way that like causation doesn't exist. Sometimes it does, and when you have this giant ball of plasma that makes up 99.86% of the mass of the solar system, you better believe it's a pretty big causative agent for all the planets, for life on Earth. Without the sun, you would not want to be here, okay? It'd be very cold, dark, it'd be miserable. Thank you, sun. So, a lot to talk about, but let's zone in on this seismic swarm, because this is the latest development that we have for California. And we get these, but it's notable. And I just want to, right from the get-go, if maybe you don't know or remind you, is that we had a magnitude 7.2 earthquake strike Mexicali on April 4th of 2010. So this is a sleeper area for big earthquakes, okay? Now, a lot of earthquakes have hit California over time. I mean, you have 1994 Northridge as a magnitude 6.6 according to the USGS. You had, or I think it was 6.7, and then you had in 1971 or 72. We'll look at the map, okay? I have it all plotted out. But 71, 72, you have a magnitude 6.6. That's a big shaker. That was shallow. That was, so there's a rich history of these magnitude 6 earthquakes across California. You had a magnitude 6 in Napa in 2014, the strongest earthquake of the 21st century for the San Francisco Bay Area, believe it or not. Then you have 2 magnitude 5s, and that's it. Super overdue for a big earthquake in the Bay Area, especially the Hayward Fault. We'll maybe touch on the Bay Area a little bit. We're really focusing on Southern California, East California seismic zone, the Mojave Desert, Nevada, this whole region is what we're going to focus on. But Mexicali gets big earthquakes. You'll notice the San Andreas, it's right there. It's cutting through that area. It's shearing everything apart. California is literally ripping apart because of how the plate boundary has transformed across time. It's absolutely fascinating. Does this mean that California is going to sink under the waves? Like Atlantis? No, it does not mean that, okay? I don't think that's likely unless some ultra mega cataclysmic geologic event was to unfold, in which case, hey, we're all going, the ship is sinking, say your farewells, hug your friends, and, just have a good party for the last couple hours. I don't think that's the case, okay? We do get sea level rise and fall, that's from other factors. But you do have this right lateral transform fault. So you have the North American plate moving this way, you have the Pacific plate moving up like this, shearing California apart on a geologic timescale. This is millions of years. So eventually, all of this, unless something's changed, all of this will actually be moved quite a bit up, because you have this new rotational dynamic that has been introduced into the plate motion, because you used to have a big plate here that was subducting under the North American plate. This was the Farallon plate, F-A-R-R-A-L-O-N, Farallon plate. The remnants of the Farallon plate are tiny now. We have the Cocos plate down here, and then this is actually 3 microplates, but in general, people refer to it as the Juan de Fuca plate. These are the 2 remnants left over of the Farallon plate, and you can see that there is still active subduction here in Mexico. That's why Mexico gets bigger earthquakes than California. A lot of people don't realize that. They freak out about California. Mexico is the real place to watch for seismicity, and then, of course, also Cascadia, because you have the Cascadia subduction zone. Magnitude 9s are possible. Last one was 1700, and actually, if you read the research, there's some uncertainty whether it was just a single magnitude 9 event or right in that range, 8.9, 9.1, whatever, or multiple high magnitude 8 earthquakes. Because for reference, 2 magnitude 8.8 earthquakes equals the same energy as a magnitude 9. So you could get even 3 high magnitude 8s to overall rupture and create the mouse slip that they've measured and all this stuff. So it's very, very active seismically in general, but we are kind of in this period right now where the San Andreas has been quiet, really hasn't been doing all that much, and well, now it's starting to change because we see this seismic swarm consisting of 300 plus earthquakes, and actually this is just for the past day. Let me switch this to the past week, all magnitudes. The lowest magnitude earthquakes here are about magnitude 1. We can check that out right here. So you see magnitude 1 quakes. Okay, you're not going to feel those. You're only going to feel like a magnitude 3, maybe, if you're directly on top of it and it's shallow. But we see our largest magnitude quake, 4.7. Okay, these people are feeling it, right? Our hombre who lives right there for sure felt that 4.7. Then you have a 4.4, 4.0. Okay, we have 3 magnitude 4 quakes. We have multiple magnitude 3 quakes, as you can see. Again, this sort of thing has happened, but the entire town of Brawley is right now shaking. And it's fascinating because if you look at our Southern California seismic network, check this out. This is pretty cool. We see this energy propagating across the entire Southern California seismic network. So we see, for example, some of these different locations for these seismographs. There's Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Palm Springs, Anaheim, right? San Diego. These aren't right there in the Mexicali Valley. They're a few hundred kilometers away, and you see that these seismic waveforms very clearly being picked up. So people aren't feeling this in San Diego, Los Angeles, any of these regions. Really, if you're right in Brawley, you're probably feeling these magnitude 4s, the 3 that have happened. But this is all microseismicity. So just in general, right now, the whole part of Southern California is just vibrating more than normal. Really cool stuff. So let us look at our Google Earth that I have for this, and we'll kind of go through this a little bit, just talk about where we are, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about where the big earthquakes have been occurring over the past 8 months or so, actually even going back to about a year now, due to very likely these coronal holes that are reoccurring on the sun, transequatorial, big, wide, negative polarity. I've talked about it all before. If you're new here, you can watch some of my last updates, my last video, not my live stream, but my last video. I talk about it all in there, talking about, we should be expecting this. The nice thing about looking at the sun is we see the sunspot and then it rotates, and we have 7 days. We have some warning, right? The coronal hole, we know it's going to probably come back. So we can forecast this stuff. So we'll talk about that in the specifics of the earthquake locations that we've had in just a little bit. But here we see California, and just from the get-go, about 70%, let's say, about 70% of the plate motion between the Pacific plate and North American plate is carried or translated by the San Andreas Fault, this transform boundary. And, it's kind of odd. You don't actually have too many transform boundaries at major plate junctions. Usually it's like a smaller thing. It's usually mid-ocean ridge, where you have oceanic crust being generated. There's actual circulation in the deep mantle leading to this convection, and then this magma that comes up and erupts as a mid-ocean ridge. A good example of a mid-ocean ridge is right in the middle of the Atlantic. The mid-Atlantic ridge basically bisects our entire Earth, goes all the way from Gockel's supervolcano caldera down through Iceland. There's a hot spot there. You go all the way past, South America, Africa, boom, 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 shakalaka, down to the Antarctic continental plate. But here in North America, we have a transform boundary. It's like, how did that form? We used to have subduction because of this Farallon plate going underneath. How did we get to this transform boundary? Well, the best geologic detective work and research effectively suggests that what happened, this Farallon plate, of course, has this mid-ocean ridge component to it, because it was actively spreading, but this overall plate motion of subduction was outpacing it. At the same time, the forces involved in pulling the slab down are about 5 to 10 times stronger than some of these other forces. So subduction is a very strong force, and it's hard to turn off. How did we turn it off in California 4 million years ago, or 10 million years ago, etc.? Well, the idea, there's a couple, but the main idea is that when this mid-ocean ridge all of a sudden lines up with the subduction zone, those strong subductive forces are very powerful, and the mid-ocean ridge, especially where it's spreading, is pretty weak. It's very buoyant because this is fresh basaltic lavas and such. And there's also this hydrothermal fluid activity that exists. And so it will actually detach, and you get a slab tear. So then you get the Farallon plate to tear at that mid-ocean ridge. That will continue to subduct down, and then that mid-ocean ridge also subducts a little bit, but it basically positions itself underneath and then slowly goes extinct as the convection dynamics change. At the same time, when you have this tear in the slab, you can get upwelling from the upper mantle and the asthenosphere to fill in that area, leading to more volcanism. So about 4 or 5 million years ago, 3 million years ago, right in that time frame, right, figured out, there was a lot of volcanic activity along California. And interesting is that down here you still have mud volcanoes and you have active volcanic activity in this zone. So it's really quite interesting to see in real time.
Graham Plattner blames Maine's women for getting raped because he says they get up drunk. And Plattner bragged about having a Nazi tattoo on his chest. That's the real Graham Plattner. Pine Tree Results PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
And this very well could be, some of this remnant mid-ocean ridge plate spreading that's now sunk down at depth. But time scale of 2-3 million years, it's really nothing. These mantle convection dynamics, these are big scale. The entire mantle, thousands of kilometers thick. You think that this turns off on a dime? You have this flow and this rhythm. So eventually it changes, but we still have this old convective regime basically underneath California. And then there was also this clockwise rotation that got introduced into plate motion, and this was then what allowed for these forces, the subduction, the mid-ocean spreading force, to effectively cancel out, and boom, you get a transform junction instead. We're seeing this play out in real time right now with the Explorer plate. You have a shear zone right here, and this is effectively what California looked like 4 million years ago, where you're now starting to get this slab breakage to occur and more transform dynamics. And so we have other examples around the world, but California is really quite unique. In fact, that has a very large transform fault as a major continental boundary. The other thing that helps stop subduction is you had all these oceanic seamounts, and you have certain oceanic plateaus generated by volcanism and more that successively slammed into the continent of the actual continent of North America, and accreted onto California. That's why the geology of California is so twisted and complex, because you have these pockets where it's actually some weird deep ocean gabbro complex or something, but now it's been uplifted and it's 1,500 feet up. And you see it all exposed at the surface. So it's super cool, amazing field trips here. I'm super blessed to have gone to UC Davis and did field trips with Eldridge Moores, who's one of the founders of plate tectonics back in the 60s. I thank God for that. Really eye-opening, and all the amazing professors at UC Davis. And we did a lot of field mapping, for example, for Summerfield in Owens Valley, and you have a lot of volcanism there. For example, you have Mono Lake, which is quite a large volcanic system, Mammoth, and all the volcanism there, the hot springs. California is very alive, and a lot of people don't know that this mid-ocean ridge from the Farallon Plate effectively sits under California now. And again, it doesn't die out in 500,000 years. This deep mantle convection, it takes time to reorganize. And in fact, that slab tear can cause some of it to come up and express itself even more. Now you have this magma. Now you have this hydrothermal fluid flow and the alteration that weakens the zone even more, now allowing for that transverse transform boundary. And so we have here this right lateral. So this again is going to the south, and California, parts of California, are going up to the north. Now, let us just kind of look at our big earthquakes. So I only really have the magnitude 7s on here, though you do see a few magnitude 6s where they're notable, because a lot of people don't realize you can get big earthquakes further in. Again, I said that about 70% of the plate motion is accommodated by the San Andreas, And if you look at the earthquake record, you see that these other earthquakes will pop off, and then the San Andreas will do an even bigger one. Kind of saying like, okay, cool, magnitude 7, let me bust out a magnitude 7.5 really quick. Or San Francisco in 1906, magnitude 7.9 is the estimate. It can do up to magnitude 8, maybe even more than that under a real special geologic situation. We really don't know. Our understanding of this is so limited. Like, we know some things, we're not stupid, but we don't have 100,000 years of high quality seismic earthquake records and all this stuff. Like, we're doing our best to piece it together. God bless all the geologists out there doing the field work, publishing their data and more. But look here, 1959, magnitude 7.2. So the other 30% is accommodated by these other zones. It can go all the way up there into Idaho and Wyoming, and you can even get big earthquakes in the Colorado Plateau. You do get some that move over here. Check this out, magnitude 7.6, 1887, right? So you can start to see the shear dynamic that exists, not just on the San Andreas, but because this whole thing is active, you get shear all through there. And one thing that researchers and seismologists and, people that pay attention have noticed is that there's this interesting back and forth that exists between the East California shear zone and the San Andreas Fault in this area. So you have big earthquakes to the east, and then you get big earthquakes to the west, and they seem to alternate in time. So we see that our most recent big earthquakes, look at this, magnitude 7.3, 1992. Not that long ago. Magnitude 7.1, 1999. Okay. These are magnitude 7 earthquakes. Again, not this Northridge like 6.7. Yeah, I didn't live through it. It's a big earthquake. I'm sure it was crazy, but at the same time, 6.7 compared to a 7.3, big difference. These are big earthquakes. Most people didn't feel them simply because not that many people are living in the Mojave or Sparks, Nevada, or someplace like that. God bless them, though. We see here some interesting kind of timing. You have the 7.3, 1892 Mexicali right off the San Andreas. That's 1892. And then you have this one here, 7.2, nearly the same magnitude, nearly the same location, this in 2010. So you see about this 120-year reoccurrence interval for these two earthquakes. So this earthquake form in Brawley, I'm not necessarily concerned about it as it relates to a big one coming, though just don't discount the Mexicali Valley in this area because they get big earthquakes. I haven't plotted, by the way, all the magnitude 7s that popped off in Baja, the Gulf of California. You get tons of magnitude 7s down here. So we could be looking at something that hits Baja in the near future. I mean, that's always a possibility. I just haven't plotted them on this Google Earth. But we see here, in the San Diego Hills, 7.4 year 1800. Big earthquake, right? That's bigger than 7.3, 226 years ago, okay? You go over here, you have 7.5, 1812. This is the 8th of December. You go forward 2 weeks, basically, and boom shakalaka, you have a magnitude 7.1 on the 21st of December. So sometimes you get these double bursts as well. But you see that these three big earthquakes for Southern California, they're 200 plus years ago. And now we've had a big activity in the East California shear zone. We can maybe expect it to come back now because we had a bunch of activity here. It shifted over here. Maybe now it's going to be shifting back. Certainly at some point we will get some big activity on the San Andreas because in general, phone is going down there. Because in general you have this sequence where you have a rupture of a fault. I think I need to maybe tighten my phone here. 1 second, guys. I should do it. Boom. Okay. You have a rupture of a fault, and then you have the spreading of that energy out. You have this seismic shadow that exists for a while, but then you start to get this loading phase. Then after the loading phase is when you get the next rupture. So you have this rupture, a relaxation, then a loading, then a rupture. That's the sequence.
Okay, team. America's energy security is on thin ice. Overburdened grid, rising costs, severe weather. What's your plan?
Stick with the grid and ride it out.
We do see a 7.5 there, 1952. That's a big quake. Notice that it's on the bend. When you get these, you get the strongest earthquakes for the San Andreas where the San Andreas bends, because that is where the strain accumulates the most, and then it finally slips because this bend kind of locks it up. So it needs a bigger earthquake to rupture it. You will notice also for 1906, magnitude 7.9, here you see this bend up there in Fort Bragg. Now the epicenter was off the coast of San Francisco, best that we know, but we had extreme rupture all the way up to Eureka and basically to the triple point. So it wasn't just a rupture right here, the whole fault ruptured through that zone, and so that bend finally allowed that rupture to occur, and that's what you had a result. Now, another thing to keep in mind with seismology and earthquakes and plate tectonics is that we have these distinct units and blocks. And some of them are smaller in scale than you may realize. Like here we're looking at continental plates, right, and those big blocks. But you have smaller Lego bricks in there as well. You have, just for reference, here, two big geologic blocks that get very little earthquakes right in them, but you have them perfectly outlined on the sides. There's a string of historic earthquakes right here where it's like magnitude 5s, and there's really not that much activity, but you do see that block edge perfectly highlighted with the historic seismicity, but then within these two blocks, nothing, super quiet until you get to the mountains. So it's also a factor of these blocks, how they're snuggled up against each other, you could say. The stress loading and strain that they're accumulating, and sometimes they all shift together. Sometimes you get just one block to shift. That will generate a smaller earthquake than a bigger shift. So this is important to note too. But we've been having big activity in Nevada recently. Now, nothing over magnitude 6 for the past month. We've had this 5.7 hit Silver Springs along with magnitude 4 quakes there. We've had earthquakes near Tonopah here in Nevada, and also we had a magnitude 4.4 just outside Area 51. And let me switch back over, in fact, so I can show you these earthquakes. And just by the way, while I'm here, this is our solar activity. Here it is this magnitude, or this 5.7 M-class flare. And this solar flare right here was also from Sunspot Group 4436. So in 5 days, we could be looking, in less than 5 days, we could be looking at X-class flares at any moment in time. This sunspot has been super active, even though it's had these huge explosions, huge solar storms and plasma launches. It hasn't cooled off. It hasn't diminished. This thing is like, dude, I can do it again and again and again, and it very well may. But if we go to our USGS earthquake map, let's switch this here to our 30-day view, and it should show all the main activity for our 30 days. Look at now kind of what we're seeing. Here is Nevada, boom, 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 pretty nice alignment, right? It's right at the edge of the basin and range. So these aren't the super big earthquakes, but clearly there's more fracturing right now as a result of them, because this has been a big swarm. Silver Springs has been hundreds of earthquakes, okay? Some of these other locations haven't been as prolific. This is magnitude 2.5. Let's go to all magnitudes, and we'll get some more noise in the data, but you see that this is a significant swarm, 86 events in the map area. Silver Springs here, right, like 500 something events. So clearly a lot of fracturing in this shear zone here, just at this location there is in Walker Lane, which is this very notable shear zone that accommodates motion between North American and Pacific plates. And in fact, if you want to like a little hint, the Walker shear zone, Walker Lane, cuts right in between these lakes. Kind of interesting. You wonder why the lakes are there and the shear zone's right there, right? You can't discount the influence of the water table and hydrothermal fluids, and there's also, some active volcanism all throughout here, so quite notable. Here is our Area 51 earthquakes, magnitude 4.4 being the greatest. But we have this alignment, effectively, like stands out very obviously, at least to me. I don't know about you guys, but this is what I see. I see very clear alignment there. You see a whole bunch of small magnitude events, but these are the biggest on the map area. Boom, 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 all in Nevada. Now we have this 4.7 in Brawley going down there. So if you're going to have a big movement in California, you probably need these areas to be loosened up a little bit, right? And we also see that with our record in that we get these big events to then have follow-up. So they're very closely aligned. We can look here and we'll see a good example of this. You have 1915, magnitude 7.3 Pleasant Valley. You have 1932, magnitude 7.2. If you look at the official USGS catalog, they have these events as magnitude 6 something, like high magnitude 6. I looked at the research papers. There's pretty much unanimous agreement as to magnitude 7. So just a quick point and note, there's some weird underreporting of the magnitudes in the official USGS catalog for some of these earthquakes, especially the ones that aren't in California. Don't ask me why, but it's different kind of calculus in your head when it's a magnitude 6 versus a magnitude 7, because the way the energy scales is so much more dramatic. Magnitude 7 is 32 times more energy released than a magnitude 6. So a 6.9 versus a 7.3 is a big deal. Like, that's really significant. It's like 3 times or 4 times the energy. So the consensus in general from what I've seen in the research, you can do your own research, I highly recommend you do it, is that this is a 7.3, this is a 7.2, boom, boom, you get this right there, and then after these events, this is again geologic scale, decadal time frame, right? After those events is when you get this 7.5 on the San Andreas, right? Well, look, that's 1952. Right after 1952, you get a double sequence here. You have a magnitude 7.3 Fairview Peak, magnitude 6.9 Dixie Valley. This occurred just minutes after this one. So it's another example of a doublet in the western United States. The other one was down for Southern California, 1812, right? The 7 point.
We all want more. More care. More calm. More connection. That's why Mazda has been named Consumer Reports' safest new car brand, the Mazda CX-90.
What I love most about Maine are the people. I have never met people who are more hard-scrabble, even in a place that requires you to work like 2 or 3 different jobs. We have watched this state become essentially unlivable for working-class people, and it makes me deeply angry. My name is Graham Plattner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine to defeat Susan Collins.
2 and 6.9, I think. Anyways. So you see how you have this reciprocal action, back and forth. You first get Nevada to have some ruptures, and then you get California to pop off a big one at the same, basically, reoccurrence interval too, right? You do 1915 to 1932, that's 17 years. 32 to 52, right? That's 20 years, very closely linked up, and then right just 2 years later, and it actually could be less because of the months and everything, right? You get these guys. So clearly a relationship there. So we've had some big activity. Here we see the most recent high magnitude quake, 7.1, 2019 Ridgecrest. This is in the East California shear zone. Again, we see how it goes activity clusters here in the Mojave, a little bit north, around the Garlock Fault. Garlock Fault, by the way, is well overdue, and it can do a magnitude 7.5. So Ridgecrest was close, but the Garlock Fault there could easily knock out a 7.5. And this accommodates motion between the San Andreas and this whole shear zone and more. But you see these 3 big earthquakes are the most recent, right? And, well, the last big quake, magnitude 7 quake, to strike this area here, 1952, okay? You see nearby magnitude 7.9, 1857. So there's a lot of unique history. If we go up, we see for the Bay Area, magnitude 7.4, 1838, Santa Cruz Mountains, just a little bit north really. Here you have the magnitude 7.9, 1906. So that reoccurrence interval is fairly short, but 7.4 versus 7.9, big difference. So we're not exactly sure that was a full rupture and like a full reset of that cycle. But very close together in location. And I just really think that we should be watching California right now really closely, because we did get this 7.2 2010. You did get the 7.3 1992, the 7.1 1999, the 7.1 in 2019. So all four of those earthquakes have loaded this part of California very strongly with a lot of stress and strain. A lot of that seismic energy gets absorbed into these faults. And we're in that loading phase. The question is, it's not a question of if we're in the loading phase, we're in the loading phase, folks. Anyone that lives here should know that these faults are actively being loaded with energy. You have inexorable plate motion that's loading in movement, 2, 3, 5 millimeters, whatever per year, right? Or maybe it's even centimeters, right? Like you have active loading every single day on these faults, but you also get loading from these earthquake events that do release our energy and then spread it out. So we're in the loading phase. The question is, when's the next big rupture? That's the big unknown. So let's go back, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's go back to our USGS earthquakes. But actually, before we do that, just want to mention we have the Pan-Ranahat. I think I pronounced that correctly. There's this shear zone there that distributes some of this energy from Walker Lane in the East California shear zone up to the Wistach Fault here. And this is super overdue as well. So when we're seeing this activity, we could be looking at California, but also, there is plate motion that's accommodated in these zones. You get, if this is like 70%, this is maybe 20%, and then you get like 10% spread out across even further. And you can just see it, folks. Just zoom out on the map, and the western United States looks like it was hit by a nuclear meteor comet, whatever. I mean, it looks like it went through a real war zone, okay? You have the basin range, you have this extensional normal faulting, and then you start to get normalcy over here, basically. But obviously there's a lot happening here. North America really took some big impacts when you had that subduction zone off the coast, and then a mid-ocean ridge subducts underneath, and that mantle convection, the slab is tearing, all this crazy stuff that we're finding out. It's very active, but things are kind of stuck up. They're lock and loaded right now. We don't know when it's going to rupture next. So let's go over to our USGS map here, and let's look at some of the earthquake activity going back to July of last year. So we just type this in here, and this will give us a better understanding of some of the flow of energy, because we looked at the flow of energy across California on that decadal time scale, but let's look at the flow of earthquake energy at a shorter time scale right here. And we'll set for 6.8, magnitude 6.8. That should do it. We'll draw our map. Oh no, we don't want to draw a map. We'll just simply search, and we'll set this to satellite, universal time, and we're going to have a good time. I hope you're all having a good time. Hello and welcome everyone to the live stream. I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, your cosmic bro, here to help you understand what is happening with the Earth. Happy Sunday. Hope you're all doing well. This isn't the end of the world. It's rather a new understanding of the world that we are embracing and coming into. So that is really why I get excited about this, because the more of these events that occur, hopefully not deadly or destructive, but as we learn more about this, we come to a better understanding of the Earth, the Sun, our cosmic environment, and also ourselves. We're all connected to this, right? And many people have experienced that. So here's our big magnitude 8.8 megaquake up here in Kamchatka, multiple aftershocks. You see that, okay? That was the end of July, and then aftershocks continued onwards. We had a magnitude 7.6 that struck Japan. This is the 8th of December, and this 7.4 is actually being reported as a 7.5 by the Japanese. So I take that number because they have top world-class seismologists, seismic networks, everything. So 7.5, 7.6. We also see the 6.8 that struck in November. Notice here, right? This is the 9th of November, that's the 8th of December, about 1 month apart. That's the rotation period of the sun. So that coronal hole was right there, Earth center, geoeffective. We're in that structure, and boom, we get these big earthquakes. Okay? So people are really looking at Japan closely. But we go down here, and we see some big earthquakes. We see a seismic burst that struck in March. So you have the 7.5, 7.3, and then you also go over to Indonesia, and you'll see the other one. Where is it? It's going to be, I guess it's this one right there, the 7.3, Luganville.
Dear Acorns, I'm planting seeds with deep intention for my children and grandchildren. As a first-time investor, this journey means everything to me. My name is Chiani Hall, and this is my Acorns Potential.
We can break it down. Yeah, it has been.
Your health?
Yeah, you see how that does make a little bit of a difference. So, yeah, there were probably other countermeasures there, but... So you can see I didn't do that either. So it doesn't take long, yeah, for that kind of sediment or buildup to start, you know, and then when that gets ignored or treated with suppressants or other things, and then it just exacerbates that. Yeah, that's why we try to refrain from a lot of that, you know. It's not that hard. Right, going into spaces where you don't have, especially these days, you know, some public spaces. I mean, luckily, you know, I'm in a pretty decent area, but I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on what establishments you're frequenting and what kind of people that you're visiting. Yeah, I guess it's what you believe and whatever you're willing to do, right? And we tried telling them a lot of these things back years ago, and for us it is sad to see the mind fuckery that a lot of people play with the stupids and the druggies, and the people that they know are at their fucking beck and call. They know it. Because anything to not look at the facts going on around here and in other communities. Hopefully people are realizing that they do what they can to help bring awareness to that. You have your means, we have ours. We all have different capabilities and resources, you know. I think the important thing is to be aware of those things, not to have delusions and false prophets or false senses of security, and to be aware of what your capabilities are, what the laws are, so you don't act like a total idiot when you get pulled over on a basic traffic stop. Insane. I know, absolutely insane. Unheard of. Crazy. And isn't it interesting too to see how that kind of kicked up at certain times, and then boom, it's like a wave, just like a protest, or all the abortion clinics they get going, or all the farmers, or all the truckers, when you try to expose just one or two businesses within those occupations, right? Couple police, couple doctors, right? And it turns into these shows. You see how they do it, right? They're gonna make you eat maggots! I thought you were trying to expose the pedo rings, Mr. Jones. What are they doing to you? I know, when you see the kind of activists and the psychos that sponsor these people and the shit they sell, it doesn't take a lot. Like, oh, okay. I mean, you don't have to look too long at it. You can do the best you can to try to get them to do the right thing and speak the fucking truth and help expose these networks. But yeah, when a lot of their buddies and the feeders and the chasers and the ones going around doing that are sometimes some of the ones that do sick shit, just like any other occupation or hobby. Yeah, when they don't want to fucking look at it. I know, you've seen some of the people that work for them getting killed. They don't seem to fucking care. Anybody watching and listening, just take note. And hopefully people do the right thing and speak up and help these kids. You can do that, like the children of America, children of all ages. From 1 second to 1,000 seconds. Do the math. From 2 to 82. Oh man, class is being funny. Oh, what a performance. Anyways. Yeah. You want to help the children of all ages, right? Including yourself. Yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good with the way you're staying silent. And speaking out a lot about bullshit and promoting dangerous things to the children. I'm confused. I know, and you think it's safe and okay, and you're protecting them from what? It's insane. All right, I mean, just take when you take the SSRIs comparison that they want to pump the kids full of. Right, and then they're doing the same things to adults. Right, and then in the areas where it's not legalized and people don't have safe dispensaries to get stuff that isn't laced from the druggies on the street that are trying to help stop that, because they're kind of like big pharma little puppets. They don't even know it. They really don't. They just do whatever for the day. What are we doing today? Coupons? Pamphlets. Fundraising? Jewelry. We're going to talk to the crazy psychos. Oh, man. We're going to listen to their stories today. All right. Which ones? We got ones that have had experiences with ghosts or aliens. Lost time. It gets old. It gets really fucking old, doesn't it? And what do you believe that was? Okay, so let me tell you the basic explanation for that. See, we have these things, smoke, mirrors, magnetism, electricity. See, you're a human being. You got all these neurons firing. No, you want to think it was your great-great-granddaddy coming back from the dead to tell you something? It was God, okay. Devil, you're okay. Someone from where? You're getting messages from where? The universe. Yes, I get messages from the universe too. God tells me things all the time, you know? Right, like right now he's telling me to shut the fuck up and go take a shower. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to listen to God. I got my clothes in hand and everything. Right, now some people take it to another level. I don't know, like some of these beliefs in God. The word alien. Flower, Bambi. Yeah, wake the fuck up. It gets so sickening, doesn't it? It's so funny too, right? It's like the never ending. You can laugh or cry about it, really. Sometimes I don't know if I'm laughing or crying. It's great. Thank you.
He calls them stupid and racist. And Plattner called some Maine lobstermen drug-addicted pieces of shit.
And on that note...